So, when you think about a high-stakes negotiation, you probably picture like a heavily guarded boardroom. Or maybe, I don't know, a tense hostage situation with a negotiator talking calmly through a megaphone.
Right. Yeah, like out of a movie.
Exactly. Everyone involved is highly trained, the parameters are super clear, and, every single word spoken is mathematically calculated to defuse a ticking bomb.
The very deliberate, intentionally controlled environment where everyone knows exactly what's on the line.
But then you look at everyday life, and some of the most explosive, high-stakes conversations you will ever have don't happen in a boardroom.
Oh, definitely not.
They happen in, like, the passenger seat of a minivan on a Tuesday night. The bomb is a stressed-out 16-year-old asking about creatine. The hostage negotiator is an exhausted parent who just wants to go to sleep. And the instruction manual is just completely missing.
We just stumble into those moments completely blind, and instead of defusing the underlying tension, we usually just end up, cutting the wrong wire and watching the whole thing blow up in our faces.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are extracting a masterclass in de-escalation from a really highly unlikely place.
Yeah, it's a fascinating source.
It really is. We are looking at a training document titled Module 6, Talking about Supplement Use with Young Elite Athletes, a parent guide to risk communication. Now, before you assume this doesn't apply to you because you aren't raising the next Olympic gymnast, stick with us.
Right, because it's not really just about athletes.
Exactly. The source material uses the incredibly pressurized environment of elite youth sports as, like, a laboratory. The insights hidden in this module about navigating intense pressure, dismantling defensiveness, and building trust are absolute gold for anyone who needs a shortcut to handling any anxiety-inducing conversation.
What stands out immediately in this document is that it isn't actually about the biochemistry of sports supplements.
Right. It's not a science textbook.
No, not at all. You won't find a detailed breakdown of protein synthesis or vitamin absorption rates here. It's a deep exploration of human psychology. I mean, it strips down how communication fundamentally breaks down under stress, and more importantly, it provides the blueprint for how to build it back up when emotions are just, running high.
So before we can learn the mechanics of how to actually talk to these young athletes, or really anyone in your life who brings a highly charged topic to your doorstep, we have to decode what they are actually saying when they bring up something like a performance supplement.
Because the words are rarely the whole story.
Exactly. We can't fix a communication breakdown if we don't first understand the emotional ecosystem that's creating it.
And that ecosystem is everything. We have to look at the daily reality the young athlete is surviving in. These are teenagers attempting to balance two incredibly demanding, constantly competing systems.
Right. They're pulled in a million directions.
Exactly. On one side, they are managing high-level sports, which demands immense physical output, constant evaluation, and just rigid discipline. And on the other side, they are managing the academic and social pressures of school.
Which is a lot on its own.
Oh, yeah. And all of this is happening while they are experiencing the sheer neurological and hormonal chaos of adolescence.
It sounds utterly exhausting just trying to map out that schedule on paper. I mean, they are basically working 2 full-time, high-stress jobs while their brains are still, under construction.
They really are. And the document highlights a critical psychological reality that emerges from this environment. In these competitive spaces, athletes feel an immense crushing pressure to appear strong, resilient, and endlessly motivated.
They can't show a single crack.
Right. They simply cannot show weakness or fatigue. So in that specific context, taking a supplement starts to look completely rational. It might even feel like an unspoken expectation if they want to keep up with their peers or recover from chronic exhaustion or achieve a certain body composition demanded by their sport.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because it makes so much sense when you look at the underlying motivation rather than just the surface request. It's like when a young athlete asks a parent about a pill or a powder, it feels a lot like an overwhelmed professional suddenly buying an expensive, highly complicated suite of productivity apps.
Oh, well, that's a great comparison.
Right, because they don't actually care about the software itself. What they're really asking for is a feeling of control over a massive, completely unmanageable workload.
That is such a clarifying way to look at it. Let's dig into why that happens. Buying the software provides a quick hit of dopamine. It provides the illusion of taking immediate action.
Yeah.
For the athlete, the supplement functions the exact same way. It's a tangible, physical object they can consume to battle an intangible, overwhelming feeling of inadequacy or fatigue.
So it's a coping mechanism.
Exactly. The document explicitly warns that a conversation about a substance is rarely ever about the substance. It's a masked conversation about a deep desire for belonging, or a very real fear of falling behind the competition, or simply, profound physical exhaustion.
Wow.
The athlete isn't acting out of the desire to break the rules or be reckless. Their core motives, wanting to improve, wanting to stop hurting after practice, are entirely understandable.
Okay, so if their motives are completely understandable and they are really just looking for a lifeline to manage their stress, why do our reactions as parents or mentors usually go so terribly wrong?
Because we're human too, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, my immediate visceral reaction to a kid asking for mystery powders wouldn't exactly be a calm, measured psychological assessment. It would be straight up panic.
Which is totally normal.
So what is breaking down between the athlete's vulnerable request and the adult's well-intentioned response?
That brings us to the actual mechanics of communication itself. We tend to operate under a very flawed metaphor. We treat communication like a one-directional transmission, like throwing a baseball.
Okay.
I have a message, I throw it at you, and you catch it. And if you caught it, communication was successful. But the source emphasizes that meaning is not transmitted. Meaning is co-created by both people in the interaction.
Co-created, meaning it really doesn't matter how perfectly I threw the baseball. It only matters how it felt to you when it hit you.
Precisely. And the context surrounding the catch changes everything about how the message is interpreted. The document paints a very clear contrast to illustrate this. Imagine a rushed, highly tense conversation in the car right after a grueling, terrible practice.
Oh, I've been there.
The parent asks a completely innocent question about a water bottle, and the exhausted athlete just explodes in anger. Now imagine taking that exact same question, word for word, and asking it in a calm, quiet conversation at the kitchen table on a Sunday rest day. You get a completely different outcome.
Because the emotional baggage in the car is just suffocating. They are physically depleted. They are probably replaying mistakes from practice in their head. And they have, zero emotional bandwidth left to interpret nuance.
Absolutely. And beyond just the immediate context, historical baggage plays a massive role.
Yeah.
The source points out that a child who already expects to be judged or who feels heavily monitored will hear a completely neutral question as a harsh accusation.
Right.
Nobody enters a conversation as a blank slate. If they've felt dismissed or criticized by you in the past, they're already filtering your current words through a defensive lens of criticism before you even finish your sentence.
See, here's where it gets really interesting, but also, let's be honest, incredibly frustrating for the parent or the manager or the partner. If I ask a simple, well-intentioned question and the other person takes it as a personal attack because they're tired or carrying past baggage, I feel completely powerless.
It's a terrible feeling.
How on earth am I supposed to communicate safely? It feels like being asked to walk through a minefield blindfolded. Am I just supposed to stay completely silent so I don't trigger an explosion?
It absolutely feels like a trap, which is why this next insight is the real aha moment of the entire module. The solution isn't silence. The solution is realizing that successful communication isn't about perfectly delivering your message.
It's not.
No, perfect delivery is a complete myth. You will never find the magical combination of words that guarantees a teenager won't roll their eyes.
Ah, true.
Successful communication is about creating a durable environment where the person you are talking to can still hear you, trust your intentions, and most importantly, return to you later when they are ready to talk.
Return to you later. Let that sink in for a second for everyone listening. The goal isn't to wrap up a complex emotional issue in one 5-minute car ride.
No, and if you can accept that perfect delivery is impossible when dealing with tired, stressed human beings, you free yourself to adopt a completely new set of goals. You have to fundamentally redefine what success looks like in these high-pressure interactions.
Which completely redefines the job description. The document is very clear on this front. Parents do not need to be sports nutritionists. You do not need to memorize the chemical ingredients of every pre-workout gummy on the market. And you definitely don't need to act as a probation officer policing every single choice your kid makes.
It's exhausting to even try to do that.
Right. Your role is simply to be an approachable guide. But if perfect delivery is a myth, how do we actually become that guide? Let's look at the spectrum of how people usually handle this, because I'm guessing my instinct to just interrogate them until they confess everything isn't on the recommended list.
No, interrogations usually backfire. To be an approachable guide, you have to be very honest with yourself about your true goal for the conversation. The source outlines 4 specific goal alignments that parents usually fall into, and 3 of them are straight-up recipes for disaster.
Okay, let's hear the disasters first.
First, there's not talking at all, just avoiding the topic entirely because you are afraid of the conflict. But silence just pushes the issue out of your house and into the locker room. They will get their information from a misinformed teammate or a random influencer on TikTok.
Avoidance might keep the peace in the minivan for 10 minutes, but pretending the bomb isn't there certainly doesn't diffuse it.
Right. Then there is the prohibition-only stance, the strict, absolutely not under no circumstances, end of discussion approach. This might feel incredibly authoritative and safe to the parent, but it almost always creates secrecy.
It drives the behavior underground.
Exactly. Now, the athlete is still experimenting, but they are hiding it from the one person who could help them if something goes wrong.
Okay, and what about the parent who just wants to be the supportive best friend? The one who goes out and buys a massive tub of powder because they want to show they're, on board with the kid's dreams.
The module calls that over-endorsement, and it carries its own hidden dangers. When a parent just blindly buys whatever the kid wants, it kills the athlete's critical thinking skills. The teenager never learns how to evaluate risk, read a label, or question marketing claims for themselves, because the adult just rubber-stamped the decision.
So if we can't avoid it, we can't strictly ban it, and we can't blindly buy it. We have to aim for the middle ground.
The fourth goal, the only one that works long-term, is aiming for open and transparent communication. If we connect this to the broader picture of human behavior, the goal isn't to control every single decision your child makes. Control's an illusion anyway.
Yeah, big illusion.
The ultimate goal is simply to stay part of the decision-making process.
I want you to think about how universally applicable that is to your own life. Whether you're managing a struggling team at work, advising a close friend who is making a bad relationship choice, or raising a teenager. Trying to force and control the outcome almost always gets you locked out of the room entirely. They just stop bringing you their problems.
It's so true.
Aiming for open communication is the only strategy that keeps you in the room.
And staying in the room is the single most protective thing you can do. You cannot guide someone, you cannot protect them if they have completely shut the door on you.
I love the philosophy. Staying in the room is the goal. But I need the actual playbook. Let's apply this to a real scenario.
Okay, let's do it.
Say it's a Tuesday evening. I'm exhausted from work. My 16-year-old walks into the kitchen, drops their gym bag on the floor, and drops a bomb. They say, Leon is taking creatine and some new pre-workout powder. He says it helps a lot. I'm so tired and I don't want to fall behind. What do I actually do with my face and my words in that moment to stay in the room?
So the document provides a very practical, boots-on-the-ground script by contrasting unhelpful reactions with 5 specific helpful communication patterns.
Let's break down the unhelpful reactions first and look at exactly why they fail neurologically and psychologically.
All right, hear me?
A shutdown response sounds like, you're not taking anything. End of discussion. That immediately triggers defiance and moves the decision out of sight. Then there's a dismissal response, which sounds like, that's just stupid gym stuff. You don't need that.
Man, I can see why dismissal is so toxic. When you say stupid gym stuff, you aren't just insulting the powder, you are attacking the teenager's emerging identity.
Exactly.
They are taking their sport seriously, they are worried about their performance, and the parent is basically laughing at the thing they care most about.
That is a crucial insight. It creates instant shame. And finally, there's the fear-only response. Supplements are dangerous. You'll ruin your liver. You'll destroy your body.
Which just spikes their anxiety without giving them a path forward. It's just a wall of panic. Right, so instead of those dead ends, we weave the helpful patterns into a dialogue. The first pattern is staying open and curious. So your very first response should simply be, interesting. What makes that appealing to you?
Oh, I see. You are buying time to calm your own nervous system, and you are inviting them to explain their logic.
Yes. The second pattern is validating their motives without endorsing the risk. You say, I completely get why that's tempting. You care deeply about improving your times, and I know how exhausted you've been after practice.
We are naming the underlying emotion. We are looking past the creatine and addressing the fear of falling behind. That is brilliant because it removes the combative dynamic. You are stepping to their side of the table. You validate their desire to be great without actually approving the powder they want to swallow.
And the psychological relief that provides is massive. Once their defensive wall drops, you introduce the third pattern, suggesting clear next steps, which the document calls shared checking. You say, before we decide anything, let's look at exactly what problem you're trying to solve. Is it muscle recovery or just energy? and let's look at the risks of this specific product together.
Wow, it changes the entire architecture of the relationship. It goes from parent versus child to parent and child versus the problem. We're replacing fear and shame with curiosity and like a collaborative research project.
To make that research project work, you need the fourth and fifth patterns: framing safety as pro-performance and using plain language.
Meaning no big medical terms.
Right, you avoid dense medical jargon. If you want to explain that a supplement industry is largely unregulated, you don't give a lecture on FDA guidelines. You just say, sometimes the label on the outside doesn't match what's actually inside the bottle. Comprehension drives the behavior, and jargon just blocks understanding.
Hold on, hold on. This all sounds wonderfully collaborative. Validating motives is great for keeping the peace. But eventually, we have to talk about the reality that some of these mystery powders are legitimately dangerous, right?
Absolutely.
Because contamination is real. People get sick. Athletes get banned. How do I warn them about the severe consequences without sliding right back into the fear-mongering panic that we just established will shut the door in my face?
It requires threading a very specific needle. The key principle the document offers is to avoid fear without efficacy. Don't just throw out a terrifying consequence like, you'll get banned from the sport forever, and leave them paralyzed.
Okay, so what do I do?
You must state the concern plainly and then give them a concrete action they can take. Fear alone paralyzes the brain. Concern, paired with a clear next step, empowers it. And to frame this risk effectively, the module introduces a very specific concept from the sports world. It's called strict liability.
Wait, I have to push back hard on this. Strict liability. After we just spent 10 minutes talking about the importance of avoiding dense medical jargon and speaking plainly, the manual wants me to drop a heavy legal concept into a kitchen conversation.
I know how it sounds, but hear me out.
I mean, if I start talking like a corporate lawyer to a stressed-out 16-year-old, they're going to roll their eyes into another dimension. How is sounding like a legal textbook supposed to help?
It's a totally valid objection, but it's all in how you frame the concept, not the vocabulary itself.
Mm-hmm.
The point of explaining strict liability isn't to frighten them with legal threats. Strict liability is the rule in elite sports that states an athlete is ultimately responsible for whatever ends up in their body, regardless of how it got there or who gave it to them.
Okay.
Introducing this reality actually empowers the athlete because it shifts the burden of proof.
Oh, I see where this is going. Instead of the parent standing there saying, I forbid this because I think it's bad, the parent is saying, the rules of your sport dictate that your body is your ultimate responsibility. Therefore, if you want to take this, we have to prove together that it is safe.
Exactly. It completely normalizes uncertainty. It removes the pressure on the parent to be the all-knowing authority figure. It allows you to honestly look your teenager in the eye and say, look, I have no idea if this specific powder is safe, but because you are the one responsible for your body, let's go find an expert who does know.
That is incredibly freeing for the parent. You don't have to pretend to be a biochemist.
No, not at all.
You just use the 5 simple questions the document provides to navigate that shared uncertainty, right? What is the product? Why are you considering taking it? What is currently known about it? What is unclear? And crucially, who can help us verify it?
Yes. And that fifth question, who can help us verify it, highlights the final critical piece of the framework: building the village. Parents do not have to carry this burden alone. In fact, attempting to do so is a mistake. The source strongly recommends aligning with the broader adult support system, specifically coaches and medical staff.
Because consistency in messaging is everything. If I'm at home preaching caution and shared checking, but the coach is pulling them aside at practice, winking and saying, do whatever it takes to get huge, kid, the athlete is trapped.
It's a terrible spot for them to be in.
They are getting mixed messages, and mixed messages paralyze critical thinking and drastically increase the risk of them making a poor, secretive choice.
Coordinating across the adult support system ensures that the athlete hears a unified message about safety and performance. Sometimes the smartest, safest choice a parent can make in that kitchen conversation is simply saying, this is a great question. Let's bring this bottle to the athletic trainer tomorrow and make sure we're all working from the exact same information.
Yeah, I love that.
It completely takes the pressure off the parent to be the sole decision maker, while simultaneously modeling how mature adults handle uncertainty.
So, to pull all of these moving parts together for you listening, If you want to communicate effectively under intense pressure, whether you are dealing with a teenage athlete, a frustrated direct report at work, or spouse, you have to look past the surface request. Look past the demand for creatine or the sudden request for new software and identify the emotional driver underneath it.
The fear of falling behind, the need for control.
Exactly, the physical exhaustion. You have to actively manage your own timing and tone, recognizing that a tense car ride after a failure is never the place for a breakthrough conversation. You must avoid absolute prohibition because strict bans just drive risky behavior underground into secrecy. And most importantly, you have to become a collaborative partner. You replace fear and control with curiosity, validation, and a commitment to shared checking.
The module obviously focuses heavily on the niche world of elite athletes and sports supplements. But if we pull the lens back, it raises a profound, lingering question for all of us about how we interact with the people we care about.
Oh, definitely.
Think about the core mechanics we've just explored. If genuine curiosity, validating underlying motives, and engaging in collaborative shared checking are the absolute best ways to keep a vulnerable athlete safe from risky physical supplements, how might applying this exact same psychological framework completely revolutionize the way we talk to teenagers about navigating social media or mental health struggles?
That's a huge point.
Right. Or really any risky adolescent behavior where our very first panicked instinct is usually just to shut the door and lay down the law.
Wow, that is the real takeaway right there. If we stop trying to act like the bomb squad, frantically cutting wires and demanding absolute control over the situation, and instead just focus all our energy on staying in the room with them, the entire dynamic of the relationship changes.
It really does.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of communication. Take these tools, ditch the fear and the jargon, and go try them out in your own high-stakes conversations. We'll catch you next time.